Movement isn't a file stored in your brain. Movement emerges from the interaction of three constraints: the individual, the task, and the environment. If you learn to change those constraints, you change the skills that emerge. Start with this rule. Training should be similar to whatever you want to get good at. Build tasks that look and feel like the performance environment. Use situational training and situational sparring. In soccer, that looks like small-sided games. In parkour, it looks like chase tag. In chess, it looks like puzzles. In dance, it looks like scores. Information here means what is happening in your body and the environment, particularly as it tells you what opportunities for action you have. Give people the same key information, the same key decisions, and the same key pressures they will need to face when they do whatever they want to do for real in a safe way. Steve Morris has a saying, "You can't learn how to swim without getting wet, and you can't learn how to fight without fighting." Your job is not to force a specific technique. Your job is to present real problems and let athletes discover what works. You create tasks that bring those problems up again and again, safely, and in slightly different ways each time. For instance, MMA can be dangerous, but Scott Seavright, Adam Singer, and colleagues had the idea to remove head strikes from most of their sparring, which allows their athletes to engage with actual fighting in a much safer way. So much safer that Scott once told me he has an older mom that loves doing his MMA classes. When you change the constraints, you change the behavior. Modify individual constraints like fatigue, stance, or starting grips. Modify task constraints like rules, time, score, or targets. Modify environmental constraints like space, surface, equipment, or the opponent. Use these levers to guide exploration, not to script the answer. Have some humility. No matter how good you are as a coach, when you try to force the answer, students can only use solutions that you allow. When you guide exploration, students can do anything that works effectively and leverage the power of self-organization. Don't just start the task from static positions that you wouldn't start a game from. Use Cal Jones' concept of an easy in to transition into the situation you want your athletes to be in so they can start with representative movement and inertia. Include transitions that stabilize the next phase of play at the end of your games so athletes don't miss out on the sections between games. There shouldn't be any. For example, in BJJ, don't make players win the moment they can put their opponent's hips on the floor and then start the next game with hips on the floor. Make it so players need to get their partner's hips to the floor and keep them there for 3 seconds. Before you design a session, ask the first and most important question: what are we optimizing for? If the goal is to learn a specific movement in a specific way, use traditional prescriptive approaches. Demonstrate, give clear steps, provide explicit feedback. You can still use tasks to build a foundation of relevant, adaptable coordination, but if the outcome you need for sport performance is copy this pattern precisely, explicit instruction is more productive. If the goal is performance that wins, build functional skill with real information. Decide whether you're trying to make someone broadly well-rounded or trying to maximize their ability to win. Most champions are not perfectly balanced. They funnel opponents into their strengths. For example, in tennis, points are often short, and the serve matters a lot. So Steve Whelan keeps the serve present in all of his tasks. That way, his athletes become exceptionally skilled at the most important situations. Yes, you can still show techniques, but use them as a light to guide exploration, not as an X marks the spot. Anchor instruction to function. Athletes need to stay grounded in playing the actual task and putting instruction immediately into representative practice. Use constraints to afford solutions, not to force them. If an athlete is struggling to search productively, tighten the constraints to narrow the search space, but use constraints only as necessary to make success more discoverable. As soon as possible, open the task back up. Remove scaffolds. Let athletes make the decisions and fail safely. Knowing when a solution works and when it doesn't is just as important as the solution itself. Expect variability. Embrace it. Great functional practice uses repetition without repetition. You repeat the problem, not the solution. As David Wee says, it's like doing addition. You don't want to solve 5 plus 3 for 100 reps, but you might want to do 100 reps of solving different addition problems. Different bodies and different contexts will need different answers. That's a feature, not a bug. Aim for multiple effective variations, not one perfect solution. Novelty matters. The more you've done the tasks, the less you get from them, especially when they're heavily constrained. Change tasks often so athletes get new opportunities for search. Give them problems they haven't really solved before, but keep the environment representative so transfer stays high. Design around problems, not prescriptions. When you present a problem often enough, people self-organize towards effective coordination. They start attuning to information in the environment, pressure, distance, timing, rhythm, all different things that specify your opportunities for action. That attunement is the engine of incredible skill. Everyone has a breakdown region. It's not always your greatest weakness because good and great players in zero-sum games funnel the game away from their weaknesses. But there's a place where athletes tend to fail. Give dense, safe practice inside and around that region. Let them figure it out. Add a sprinkle of feedback, not a heaping scoop. Iterate that cycle and you'll produce creative, resilient problem solvers who can always find a solution under pressure. In creative movement domains like dance or acrobatics, the goal shifts. You're not funneling an opponent, you're cultivating adaptability and creativity across many different problems. Environmental changes are powerful here. Surfaces, supports, obstacles, partners, but logistics can be tough. So use intentional constraints to easily guide athletes towards learning new ways to move. These narrow the search enough to avoid overwhelm while keeping exploration alive. For instance, rather than trying to focus on doing the perfect bridge rotation, what happens if we explore different ways we can bridge for 90 seconds? This approach is not the same as what you already do. It's also about what you stop doing. You stop trying to engrave one ideal technique for each situation. You stop drilling movements in isolation and expecting magic transfer to game day. You stop assuming that the brain puppeteers a stored pattern into the body. You stop assuming that skillful movement is an expression of intellectual understanding. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Set real, representative problems, shape constraints, and let athletes solve. Do that and you'll help ordinary athletes become incredibly adaptable, creative, and effective movers. If you want to learn more about ecological dynamics, check out this documentary I spent 2 years working on. Or if you want to see how it actually applies to BJJ, check out my fundamentals course in the link below.
Hi, I'm Paul Von Hacker, a BJJ black belt and the owner of Evolution Jiu-Jitsu. We recently completed a 30-day trial of Bryn's Beyond Technique course. The course contains numerous constraints-led approach exercises that can be used at absolutely any academy. After the 30 days, I asked my students for feedback. Should we continue with the CLA or go with the technique of the week? Universally, CLA was chosen. I noticed 3 things: improved skill acquisition, increased memory recall, and better problem-solving skills. Look, if you're doing No-Gi November, why not do CLA December? Don't take my word for it. Buy the course, give it 30 days, and get your staff and your students' feedback. I'm confident you and your students will absolutely love it. Oh, and remember, always evolve. PVH out.
For the past 2 years in my kids program, I've incorporated CLA and the ecological dynamics framework in my practice and my coaching. And I've seen huge results in terms of efficiency and skill in the program. Just recently, we've seen some courses come out, and I would really like to highlight Bren's course as a great impact in my lesson planning. He also answers a lot of questions on the theory and methodology. And the greatest thing about this course is that he's continuing to update it, periodically, based on feedback of customers. And I really think it's a great value course and a great way to get you started on this path of incorporating CLA and ecological dynamics into your coaching. I also highly recommend the background video that he produced leading up to the release of this course as well.